My name is Aneesh. I lived in Kenya for about 15 odd years of my life, and it was a very hostile environment growing up for someone that doesn't really know what's happening until I became a lot older, probably the age of 14 or 15, where I became a lot more aware of what was happening, and I decided to come to the UK for my A levels. And that was a big step, but the way I saw it was I'm going to come to the UK for university anyway. And it would be important for me to settle into the culture, settle into the environment that I know I'm going to have to face as such in the future, regardless of where I am. And I'd painted this vivid picture of what England would look like. I thought the grass would be green on the other side. Moving at the age of 16 into a new school with no friends has its challenges. Kenya is a very different experience to the UK. I went through about 5 months of eating lunch completely by myself, only talking to my teachers really, probably having very brief interactions, saying, "Hi, how are you? My name's Anish," to not really having any friendships that I could turn to. I had great teachers, don't get me wrong, some of them were amazing, but a lot of the work was based on independent study. And independent study works well when you have a group of friends that you can study with. As much as I reached out to people and said, "Oh, would you like to do this?" It almost always felt as if it was just too forced. It was me being too needy. I had a different accent. I had a different kind of sense of identity. My first ever winter, I remember it getting dark at 4 p.m. and I was like, "Oh, wow." And I remember having conversations with my friends in Kenya who were telling me, "It's so nice, it's so sunny, we're going out for football, wish you could join." And I asked myself, do I really want to be here? And I cried that December. I told my mum, I'm not sure if I really want to stay in the UK. And she's like, that's fine. But when I went back to Kenya that December, I spent amazing time with my grandmother, with my girlfriend at the time. It was really great. And I felt like, okay, that's given me the sense of energy and the momentum that I can use to come back to the UK. And I also felt like I made the decision to come to the UK and do my A levels here. I should stick to that. Things will get better. And I remained positive. And that positivity came after my first ever episode of trying to end my life, trying to kill myself. And I feel like that was a real wake up call for me. And it made me realize that it's not how to face your emotions. It's almost like giving up. And at the age of 16, I wasn't ready to give up yet. So I went back to school in January. Same weather, same situation. Family support wasn't great, but I decided that it would be best if I just put myself through that whole year of year 12. And if it doesn't work out, I can always go back to Kenya and do my A levels again. So that's what I did for those 6 months. And it gradually became better. Come AS levels, I did well in two subjects, but I did absolutely horrible in two others. And my school told me if I don't manage to change that U, I won't be able to continue in my A2 levels. So that itself was its own challenge, being told by your school that you need to change a grade from what it is to something else in order to even get into a good university. And I went back to Kenya in summer again because it had been a long time since I hadn't been, and I wanted to go and see my grandmother. It was great, but my relationship with my girlfriend had completely changed because you haven't seen somebody for almost half a year. She had made new friends, people that she could relive different experiences with, and that insecure 17-year-old Anish came out. I think the uncertainty of not knowing what school you're going to go to, where life is going to go forwards, having a difficult relationship that you didn't know what was going to happen, and knowing for a fact that you're going to have to go back to a country where you don't really have the right things in place caused me to have my second episode of trying to take my life away. That was my second and last episode of suicide ever in my life. And I made myself that promise to my grandmother, to my sister, but I told them that they've given up so much for me and I'm not giving up just because things get difficult. That's not a reason to give up. It's to get back on your feet and to try. So I came back to the UK and I worked really hard those A levels. I did 3 subjects and I resat to my AS levels and I managed to get 1 A star and 2 A's, getting into Bristol University. And I did it. I did it. I remember being 18 and telling myself I got through the hardest year of my life. And that for me, that sense of achievement, that sense of accomplishment has carried on with me. And every time things get difficult, I reframe back to that year. Life will always throw sticks and stones. Life will always push you to the ground. But that resilience, that light that you find inside yourself is enough to get you back up, is enough to start setting that positive momentum. And sometimes it's so difficult to find that in yourself when everything around you is coming crashing down. When I went through my first and second episode, I was a teenager. When you're a teenager, you have your own emotions and your own hormones that only exaggerated my thoughts and emotions. Coupled with that, and I feel a lot of people can relate to this, is you feel very alone, you feel isolated, you feel like no one really understands what you're going through, no one really understands the pain and the suffering and how it feels to know your life is uncertain or life has come crashing down on you, or you're filled with regret, filled with guilt, filled with anxious thoughts about what the future holds. I've been a person that always blocked out my emotions because I had to. I had to be a person that very rarely felt someone could do something about my situation. That's always the mindset I had when I was growing up. I always felt if I told someone my problems, what are they supposed to do about it? There's nothing that they can do. So not only did I feel isolated, I also in turn created that isolation sometimes. Not always. But I've learned now it's important to tune into those emotions rather than blocking them out because they sprue up like a volcano. And when they sprue up like a volcano all at once, it is incredibly difficult to cope with it, especially when you're young. And now I try and have strategies in place where if something does hold me down, I talk about it. That really helps. And I've improved my resilience a lot since then. And when I had counseling in university to relive these old traumas, I was given an exercise. This exercise was to look back at my childhood self and to look back at this kid that had had to grow up so quickly, who was mischievous, who was unguided, but still had such an innocence to him, had such joy in him, had such character. And to hold his hand, just give him a hug and tell him that he's still in me, he's still there, he's still part of me. And to just tell him that it's okay, everything that you've gone through has worked out in the end, and you're here where you are today. Things might not be sunshine and rainbows, but you're here and that's good enough. There's so many people in your life that are grateful that you're here. I'm grateful that I'm here. I'm not perfect, but I look back on all the positive changes that I've made and all the people I know I have, and that light inside of me came the most when I realized that I can take the control over my emotions and my circumstances if I really want to. There are some that are more challenging than others. If you're in an abusive relationship, or if you're in a house where you don't feel safe or secure, or it's always negative. But I've realized that only you have the power to create your own reality. It could be like just changing your pattern of thinking, going for a walk in the park, or integrating positive habits that allow you to cope. That is what's given me that sense of joy. There always is a way out. And that way out starts from within, that way out starts from being and imagining and integrating who you want to see yourself as and doing everything you can to become that person. Took me a long, long time to change this mindset of mine, to move from this person where I became victim to everything that life was throwing me to becoming someone that uses that as a tool for his own growth, as a tool to seek the right experiences, friendships, love, positivity, happiness. I take it in a way where happiness is always within, and so is sadness. Both always exist within, there's always duality, but our experiences and where we choose to feed our energy to is what becomes the narrative